It's finally starting to unfold. The shift has already begun. While everyone is waiting for June 6th, the day Venus officially re-enters its celestial sanctuary of Taurus, something far more subtle, far more powerful is already underway. And it's happening now, in this very moment. June 4th marks the quiet ignition, the unseen spark that begins to stir something within your soul long before the astrology charts catch up. This isn't just an astrological event. It's a soul event. A visceral, energetic quickening that doesn't ask for your permission. It simply arrives. And the thing is, you may not even be able to name it. There may be no words for it yet, but your body knows. Your soul knows. Something inside of you has already started shifting, realigning, letting go, and reaching out. And even if your conscious mind is still catching up, your energy field is already responding. This is the quiet before the arrival, not of chaos, but of truth. You may feel off today, unusually emotional, restless, a little raw or strangely awake. Perhaps there's a dull ache in your chest, or a pull in your belly that you can't quite explain. Maybe you're remembering someone from the past, but not with longing, with clarity. You might feel like something is falling away, but you can't yet see what. That's not anxiety. That's not overthinking. That's your inner world adjusting to what your outer world is about to reflect. These are not just mood swings. These are soul echoes. Energetically, we're standing at a precipice. And this moment, June 4th, is where the old energetic cords begin to quietly unravel. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It's not even always visible. But for those tuned in, those awake enough to feel the deep, quiet rhythms of their spiritual evolution, it's unmistakable. What's happening now is an inner calibration, a rewiring of who you are, who you're becoming, and who you're no longer meant to be. Maybe you're noticing friction in your relationships. Maybe your usual conversations feel like static. Maybe your body feels heavier in certain places or lighter in others. Maybe you find yourself craving more solitude, or sensing that something or someone is no longer meant to walk beside you. That's not you being too much. That's not your imagination. That's divine intelligence moving through you, speaking to you in the most honest language there is, the language of sensation, emotion, embodiment. We tend to think energetic shifts are events marked by a date on a calendar. But they rarely work that way. The cosmos doesn't operate on linear time. It speaks in pulses, vibrations, magnetic waves. So while Venus enters Taurus on June 6th, the frequency of this change has already rippled into your field. And if you're sensitive, if you're awake, if you're even just slightly aware, you're already feeling the change stir beneath the surface of everything. This isn't just Venus changing signs. It's a reclamation. Venus is returning home, not just astrologically, but spiritually. And that return signals something ancient in you rising to the surface. The part of you that remembers how to be whole, how to love without losing yourself, how to find stability in your sacred truth. And this time, Venus in Taurus isn't here to indulge in illusions. This isn't about romance or fantasy or holding on to things that no longer nourish your spirit. This energy is about embodiment, sovereignty, groundedness. It's about sensing what your body already knows, even if your heart is still catching up. This shift is asking you to get honest, not in a harsh, disruptive way, but in a quietly revolutionary way. It's inviting you to look at your relationships, your routines, your values, and ask, do they still honor who I am becoming? Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is let something, or someone go. And that's exactly the medicine Venus in Taurus brings. Not grief, but grace. Not endings, but closures. Not judgment, but liberation. Some soul contracts are simply expiring now. Not because you failed, not because they failed, but because their purpose has been fulfilled. They served their season. They gave what they were meant to give. And now it's time to release the story with love and turn the page. Don't be surprised if you start feeling more tired around certain people, or if conversations that used to flow now feel strained, or if places you once loved visiting suddenly feel foreign. That's your energy field recalibrating. That's your body whispering what your soul already knows. You're not where you once were, and you're not going back. Venus in Taurus brings you back into the body, and your body is incredibly wise. It doesn't overanalyze. It doesn't second guess. It responds, truthfully, instinctively. When you feel heaviness around someone, when your breath shortens, when your sleep patterns shift after spending time with certain energies, listen. Those aren't random experiences, they're messages. They're your body signaling. Something here is out of alignment. Something here no longer fits, and you don't need to rationalize it. You don't need a spreadsheet of reasons to trust yourself. Your intuition is the reason. Your body is your compass. And right now, that compass is pointing you somewhere new. Not through logic, but through sensation, through truth, through what feels rooted. This is a sacred turning point, a checkpoint in your soul's journey. One that quietly draws the line between what's meant to move forward with you and what isn't. And sometimes, that line is drawn not in anger, but in tenderness. Not in resistance, but in reverence. Because as you grow, not everything can come with you. And yes, it might be painful. It might bring tears. It might feel confusing at first. But it's not because you're breaking. It's because you're breaking open. You're not losing. You're being realigned. And what's leaving now was never meant to last forever. It was only meant to teach you something about yourself, something sacred, something irreplaceable. So if you're feeling emotionally tender today, if you find yourself wanting to retreat inward, if you're sensing a subtle shift you can't quite explain, don't run from it. Sit with it. Breathe into it. Honor it. Because that quiet knowing, that deep pull inward, is the beginning of a powerful realignment that will begin revealing itself in the days and weeks ahead. Before long, what's shifting inside of you will begin to take form in your outer world. Relationships will evolve or dissolve. New invitations will appear. Old cycles will end. And not because you forced them to, but because your energy no longer matches the frequency of where you've been. You're not abandoning anyone. You're no longer abandoning yourself. And yes, some people won't understand. Some may even resist the change in you. But that's only because they were used to the version of you that dimmed your light, that compromised your truth, that made space for their comfort at the expense of your own growth. And now, you're no longer available for that. Not from ego, but from alignment. You are not becoming someone else. You are becoming more of who you truly are. And the more you anchor into that truth, the more magnetic your life becomes. Not to people who drain you, but to people who see you, feel you, honor you. People who don't just want your energy, but who match it. People who don't just take space in your life, but who walk beside you with reverence. So let yourself change. Let the old versions of you fall away. Let the new rhythm emerge. This Venus in Taurus portal is not just an astrological transit. It's a return to your essence, a return to your body, a return to your truth. And if any part of you needed confirmation, this is it. You're not going crazy. You're not overreacting. You're awakening. You're shifting. You're aligning. So honor what feels off. Trust what feels done. And give yourself permission to stop holding what's already unraveling. Because what's coming next is built on a new frequency, one that begins in the quiet wisdom of your body and expands into every corner of your life. Let's be honest. There's probably someone who still lives somewhere in the back of your mind. Maybe it's someone who walked away without looking back. Someone whose voice used to calm your chaos, whose presence you once relied on like the rhythm of your own heartbeat. And now, slowly but surely, they've faded into the distance, yet not entirely. Maybe they're not even physically present anymore, but they live in your memory, in your dreams, in your unspoken what-ifs. Maybe you find yourself replaying conversations, imagining different endings, rewriting the last chapter over and over because something inside you keeps whispering that they owe you closure, that they left too much undone, that you deserve some kind of explanation, a neat, tied-up ending that validates your feelings, that lets you finally walk away with peace in your heart. But what if that moment never comes? What if this new energy, the steady, grounding pull of Venus in Taurus, isn't about resurrecting the past or reopening old wounds? What if it's inviting you to do something far more sacred, to let go without getting what you thought you needed, to stop asking questions that may never have answers and start choosing the peace that comes from no longer needing them? This isn't about finding reasons. It's not about proving you were right or getting someone to see your worth. This isn't about romanticizing a version of the past that never truly fit you, or holding out hope that someone will finally wake up and realize what they lost. This is deeper. This is about release. It's about the quiet, courageous act of choosing to honor your own growth over your longing. To recognize that not everything unfinished needs to be resolved with words. Sometimes the real closure is the moment you stop waiting for someone else to give it to you. Sometimes closure is internal, a private act of grace, a moment of deep self-respect when you stop chasing the echo of someone else's validation and start giving yourself what you needed all along, your own permission to move on. Not out of bitterness, not because you've hardened, but because your spirit deserves peace, because your future deserves space. This energy doesn't call you backward. It's not asking you to pick through the ashes or try to reignite what no longer burns. It's calling you home, to yourself, to your values, to the parts of you that were buried under emotional rubble, quietly waiting for you to remember who you are. There's a reason your body feels what it feels. There's a reason your energy shifts when certain names are mentioned, when certain memories resurface. Your body is wise. It holds emotional truths your mind might still be negotiating with. If you feel a heaviness around certain people or memories, listen to that. Not everything has to be logical to be valid. Your intuition speaks in sensations, in inner knowing, in subtle nudges that guide you toward your own wholeness. And if you've been feeling that tug, that emotional unraveling, that sense of something quietly coming undone within you, it's not because you're falling apart. It's because something is finally breaking free. You're shedding the weight of unfinished emotional business, the kind that lingers in your nervous system, in your habits, in your unconscious need to prove yourself to someone who no longer deserves that privilege. You're not losing your mind. You're not being irrational. You're evolving. You're moving from self-sacrifice into self-respect, from waiting to receiving, from surviving to living. There's something beautifully liberating about not needing to be understood by people who never truly saw you in the first place. You no longer have to defend your choices, your boundaries, or your feelings. You're learning to honor your experience without needing anyone else to co-sign it. And that, in itself, is healing. That is closure. You may not even realize how powerful this moment is. Because you're not simply walking away from a person, you're walking away from a version of yourself that was still trying to earn love by shrinking, by bending, by giving endlessly, in hopes that someone would finally mirror your care. You're leaving behind a story where your worth was tied to someone else's ability to appreciate it. And in doing so, you're reclaiming the pen. You're writing a new chapter not based on pain or desperation, but on deep, unshakable self-love. Venus in Taurus is not about the fantasy. It's about the foundation. It's about what's real, what's rooted, what endures when the superficial fades. It invites you to create love, not just feel it. To build something meaningful with yourself first, so that when the right person comes along, you're not giving from a place of emptiness, but from abundance. That's why you might feel distant from certain people or disconnected from dynamics that used to feel like home. Because what once mirrored you no longer matches the reflection you're stepping into. You've grown, and not everyone is meant to come with you. Some relationships only made sense when your boundaries were blurred, when your heart was too open to protect itself. But that version of you is no longer in charge. You're not the same person who tolerated disrespect under the illusion of loyalty. You're not the same person who confused being needed with being valued. Now you are choosing differently. You're choosing alignment over attachment. You're choosing peace over chaos. You're choosing to trust the deeper truth, the one that doesn't need to be shouted or proven, but simply felt. And this change is loud, even when you say nothing. People can feel it. They sense that something's different. You haven't made any grand declarations, but your energy speaks volumes. You've stopped over-explaining. You've stopped diluting your truth to be digestible for others. You've stopped handing out second chances like lifelines to people who never valued the first one. Now your no is clear. Your silence has weight. Your presence holds a new kind of strength, the kind that doesn't come from trying harder, but from finally letting go. It's okay if this transformation is quiet. Not every breakthrough comes with fireworks. Some come with soft sobs, with long walks alone, with journal pages stained in ink and tears. Some come when you finally unfollow someone not out of spite, but out of self-care. When you finally stop checking your phone hoping to see their name. When you realize that what you were waiting for outside of yourself was already blooming inside of you. And no, not everyone will understand. Some may even be confused or hurt by your shift, but that's okay. You're not changing for applause. You're changing for freedom. You're not shedding old versions of yourself to impress anyone. You're doing it because your soul is calling you forward, and you're finally answering. This is what it means to rise. This is what it means to claim your life as your own. To stop asking for permission to heal. To stop hoping for someone else to complete a story you were always meant to finish on your own. So take a deep breath. Place your hand on your heart and thank yourself for making it this far. You've let go of things you once thought you couldn't live without. You've survived heartbreaks that felt unbearable. You've outgrown patterns that once felt like second skin. And you're still here. Wiser, softer, stronger, more you than you've ever been. This is your quiet revolution, a sacred return to self. A moment of truth that doesn't need to be shared or explained, just honored. And somewhere in the stillness, without needing to force it, you'll feel it, the beginning of something new. Not born from the ruins of your past, but from the roots you've been growing all along. This shift you're moving through, the gentle but powerful wave of Venusian current, holds a kind of alchemy that doesn't announce itself with loud thunder or blinding flashes of change. Instead, it seeps in softly, like warm light creeping into a room you didn't even know had been dimmed. It touches your life in the quiet spaces first, in the pauses between thoughts, in the deep exhale you didn't realize you were holding, in the gentle ache of something no longer resonating. That's how this transformation begins. This is not a punishment, not a lesson cloaked in suffering. This is a liberation, a soft unraveling of old illusions that once held you in place, stories you clung to because they gave shape to your wounds. But now, the mirrors that once only showed your pain are beginning to reflect something else, something truer. You, the real you, not the version that survived, the version that is ready to live. And yes, this kind of liberation can feel disorienting. You might find yourself in moments where you're unsure of your footing, where the things that used to comfort you suddenly feel heavy, too small, outdated. It's not that anything is necessarily wrong. It's just that your soul has outgrown the framework it once accepted as home. You may even feel misunderstood by those around you, especially by those who knew you in your former chapters. You might be speaking a language now that feels foreign to those who only ever knew your wounds, your people-pleasing, your quiet self-sacrifice. And here's the truth. Not everyone will want to learn this new language of yours. Not everyone will listen closely enough to understand. Some will misinterpret your growth as distance. Others will shrink away from your light, not out of cruelty, but because your authenticity reminds them of the places they haven't yet dared to go. That's okay. Let them misunderstand you. Let them hold on to old versions of you that no longer fit the truth of who you've become. You don't need to keep shrinking yourself just to fit into their memory of you. You are not responsible for staying small to make others comfortable. Not now, not anymore. Silence isn't always rejection. Sometimes it's simply life making space for what's more aligned. It's the universe clearing the static so that the right frequencies, the ones meant for your next chapter, can come through more clearly. It's not personal, it's purposeful. This is the sacred space between chapters, where endings quietly give way to new beginnings. And as those old energies dissolve, you might notice that certain people are slowly fading from your orbit. Conversations that once lit you up now feel hollow. Messages go unanswered, not from malice, but from misalignment. It's not because you've become cold or distant. It's because clarity has arrived. The noise that used to distract you is no longer tolerable. Your spirit can't pretend anymore. You've changed, and with that change, your energy is refining its own language. That refinement is painful, yes, but also profoundly beautiful. Because when you start living your truth so deeply, so unapologetically, something miraculous happens. You begin to attract connections that are rooted in resonance, not performance. No more contorting yourself into versions that people can easily digest. No more biting your tongue to keep the peace. Now peace comes from alignment, from living in integrity with your own heart. And still, even as this deeper self emerges, it's natural to grieve the connections that fall away. It's okay to miss them, the souls who once felt like home, even if they were only ever meant to be a stopover on your journey. It's okay to remember the laughter you shared, the dreams you once spoke into the night, the moments that felt like they would stretch into eternity. Those were real. They mattered. But not everything real is meant to be permanent. This is one of the deeper lessons Venus is weaving through your life now. That impermanence doesn't mean insignificance. Some connections were meant to be temporary, divine interruptions rather than lifelong companions. Some people arrive just long enough to mirror a part of yourself back to you. They don't stay, but they leave you changed. They were a verse in your symphony, a single note that played at just the right time to open your heart, even if they couldn't remain for the entire song. And that too is a form of sacred beauty. It's not a failure when a connection ends. It's art. It's poetry. It's the way life expresses itself in moments rather than forever. We often think of endings as sad things, but what if they're just transitions? What if they're simply the natural pauses between movements in a grand composition that only your soul truly understands? You don't have to force yourself to forget. You don't have to pretend you don't feel the ache of absence. Missing someone doesn't mean you made a mistake in letting go. It means your heart is open enough to feel deeply, even in the face of impermanence. That's not weakness. That's love in its purest, most human form. Some souls appear like a gentle breath in the middle of your chaos, just long enough to remind you who you are, just long enough to help you remember that softness is strength, that presence is medicine, and that you are never, ever truly alone, even when it feels like the world has gone quiet. These moments, these short-lived connections, these fleeting chapters, they're not meant to define you, but they are meant to refine you. They shape your journey. They whisper truths you might not have heard otherwise. And then, like a wind that passes through a chime, they move on. You are allowed to honor what was without needing to carry it forward. You are allowed to love someone and still let them go. You are allowed to walk away without needing to be angry. Some corridors were never meant to be permanent. Some companions were meant to hold your hand just until you found your footing again. And now, you're being called forward. This is where the Venusian shift becomes more than a spiritual idea. It becomes embodied. You may feel it in your body before you understand it in your mind. You may notice a restlessness, a knowing that you don't belong where you once did. The same conversations that used to sustain you now feel like echoes. The old dreams feel too small. And even the comfort you once clung to starts to feel like a cage. Comfort will whisper that it's easier to stay, that it's safer to remain within the known. But your body, your instincts, know the truth. They're guiding you forward. They're telling you that you've already outgrown the walls around you, and that the only way to honor your becoming is to leave behind what no longer reflects your truth. This is not a dramatic exit. It's not a fiery rebirth. It's quieter than that. Softer. Like the petals of a flower unfolding in the dark. It's a slow, sensual becoming that doesn't rush. That's the Taurus essence of this Venusian wave. Steady, grounded, deeply rooted. It doesn't need fanfare. It only needs presence. And yet, within that groundedness lies the subtle test. Life is asking you something now. Not in loud, unmistakable terms, but in quiet nudges, in gentle invitations. Are you ready to move forward without waiting for closure? Can you honor what was and still let go, even when you don't have all the answers? This is not a flashy moment. There are no dramatic signs pointing you toward your destiny. There is only the whisper of your own truth, calling you home to yourself. And that's the test. Most people walk right past it. They don't realize how significant this quiet moment really is. They're waiting for fireworks, not realizing that the real magic is unfolding in the stillness. Taurus energy doesn't rush. It doesn't chase. It waits, it roots, it embodies. It trusts the process. It teaches you to value what is real, not what sparkles, not what dazzles, but what endures, what holds weight, what stays. And here's the paradox. Just before something truly aligned arrives in your life, something that touches the deepest chambers of your soul, you will often be tempted with something that looks almost right. Something that's comfortable, familiar, maybe even beautiful in its own way. But it doesn't resonate all the way down. It doesn't light you up from within. It doesn't breathe life into your becoming. That is the great challenge of this passage, the good enough test. Because good enough can be seductive. It can offer safety, companionship, ease, but it asks you to trade your truth for familiarity. And that's not the kind of love or life your soul came here for. You came here to experience the kind of resonance that doesn't just make sense. It makes magic. The kind that sings in your bones. The kind that doesn't require shrinking or explanation. The kind that aligns fully without forcing. That's what you're being led toward now. But first, you must be willing to say no to almost. No to the illusion of alignment. No to the stories that tell you you're too much, too different, too sensitive. You are not too much. You are precisely calibrated for the path ahead. This Venusian shift is a reclamation of beauty, of truth, of love that flows from a deeper source. It's an invitation to stop performing and start being, to stop chasing and start receiving, to stop surviving and start living from the center of your heart. So let the mirrors melt. Let the old stories fall away. Let the misunderstandings come. Let the silence stretch if it must. Because on the other side of this gentle unraveling is a version of you so rooted, so radiant, so aligned with love, that the past no longer holds power. During this in-between phase, where life feels like it has taken a long pause, it's easy to feel like you're stuck, like you're standing still while everything else moves forward. There's a quiet that settles in, a silence so loud that it can feel unnerving. But this stillness is not emptiness. It's not a sign that you've lost your momentum or that you've taken a wrong turn. Instead, it's the universe creating a sacred space for transformation. It's an invitation to slow down, to recalibrate, and to prepare. What looks like a pause from the outside is often the deepest kind of progress happening beneath the surface. It's the moment just before the breakthrough, the space where your next self is forming, quieter, wiser, and more aligned with truth. This in-between space can be deeply uncomfortable because it lacks clarity. You don't have all the answers, and that can be frightening. When you're no longer who you used to be, but not quite yet who you're becoming, there's a vulnerability that arises. Your nervous system reaches for what it knows, craving the comfort of the familiar, even if that familiarity brought pain or dissatisfaction. It's common to feel a pull to return to past relationships, old patterns, or environments you've outgrown. Not because they were truly fulfilling, but because they at least made sense. They were predictable. And when the future feels uncertain, the mind naturally clings to anything that once felt solid, even if that solidity was built on illusion. But in this moment, going back is not the answer. You're being asked to evolve beyond what you've already survived. You're being asked to stay, to sit with the stillness, and to trust the unknown. The urge to reach back, to text someone who no longer fits your life, to dive back into habits that once numbed your pain, those urges are not invitations. They are tests. They are echoes of your past self, calling out in fear, not faith. They are distractions, tempting you away from the sacred unfolding that's occurring within you. Taurus energy, especially with Venus moving through its home sign, doesn't fall for these distractions. It doesn't chase what doesn't serve it, and it certainly doesn't accept half-hearted love or surface-level peace. Taurus energy is deeply embodied. It knows its value at the cellular level. It stands firm in the truth that real worth never has to beg. That's the vibration you're being asked to align with now. Not the version of you that pleads to be chosen, but the version that chooses herself even when it's hard. Even when it means letting go without knowing what will replace what you've released. This is not the time for frantic action. It's a time for intentional stillness, for choosing not to fill the silence just to feel less alone, for resisting the temptation to settle, even when settling feels easier than sitting in the discomfort of possibility. Because that's what this really is, possibility. The stillness you feel isn't a void. It's a space being cleared for something new. And if you fill it too soon, with someone, with something, with anything that doesn't truly fit, you'll block the very thing that was meant to find you. Real courage in this moment looks like not acting, not because you're passive, but because you're becoming conscious. Conscious enough to recognize that not everything that calls for your attention deserves your energy. Conscious enough to know that you don't have to answer every emotional impulse with action. You can let the feelings move through you without making them into stories, without turning them into decisions that take you further from yourself. This is where self-trust is forged, not in the obvious, visible moments, but in the quiet ones where no one is watching, where the only validation you have is your own, where you choose not to call the person who hurt you, not because you're angry, but because you love yourself too much to go backward, where you sit with the ache of loneliness without trying to soothe it with something that isn't truly love. These are the moments where you expand, because if you say yes to the misaligned out of fear, you will pay the price later. Not just emotionally, but energetically. Misaligned choices don't stay contained. They ripple. They touch every part of your life, from your relationships to your finances to your sense of self. When you choose from a place of lack, you create more lack. When you choose from fear, you plant seeds of scarcity that bloom into confusion, anxiety, and instability. That's why this moment is so crucial. That's why the silence feels so intense. Because it matters. Because what you choose now sets the foundation for everything that comes next. Taurus doesn't rush. It moves with purpose. It values quality over quantity, depth over surface, truth over comfort. And when Venus, the planet of love, value, and beauty, moves through Taurus, it invites us to evaluate not just our relationships, but our entire sense of worth. It asks, are you treating yourself like someone valuable? Are you making choices from a place of self-love or self-abandonment? Are your standards aligned with your soul or with your wounds? Everything is connected now in a way that's impossible to ignore. Your relationship patterns aren't isolated from your abundance. They're directly linked. The way you allow others to treat you is mirrored in the way the universe responds to you. If you're tolerating inconsistency, your financial life might reflect that instability. If you're sacrificing your peace to keep others comfortable, you may notice your energy being depleted in ways that affect every area of your life. It's all tied together. True abundance isn't about having more. It's about having what's real. It's about being able to rest without guilt, to love without fear, to say no without explanation. It's about standing so firmly in your truth that anything misaligned naturally falls away. Not because you pushed it, but because it simply can't exist in the vibration you've chosen to embody. That's what Venus in Taurus wants to teach you. That real wealth is peace. That the ultimate luxury is being in a relationship where you don't have to perform or explain or shrink. Where you can simply be, and that's enough. So if your current relationships or environments don't reflect that, it may be time to let them go. Not out of anger, but out of reverence for the person you are becoming. Because when your energy is no longer tied up in people or places that don't honor you, you free yourself. And in that freedom, you become magnetic to everything that's truly meant for you. This isn't about being perfect or having it all figured out. It's about being honest. Honest about what you feel, about what you want, about what you deserve. Honest about the fact that some of the people you love may not be able to meet you where you're going, and that's okay. Not everyone is meant to make the journey with you. Some are only meant to walk with you through one chapter, and then let you go with grace. But you must be the one to make peace with that. You must be the one to close the door, even when it aches to do so. Because your future isn't waiting behind you. It's not hiding in the past. It's being built in the silence, in the stillness, in your ability to stay aligned with your truth, even when everything around you tempts you to bend. Some of the most transformative goodbyes are the ones you say silently, in your own heart. The ones where you choose yourself, not loudly or dramatically, but quietly and consistently. The ones where you stop chasing closure and start creating your own. Because closure isn't something others give you. It's something you give yourself when you finally stop trying to make something work that was never meant to last. This is the work now, to make peace with the pause, to sit with the unknown without turning it into a crisis, to trust that what's meant for you will find you when you become the version of yourself that's ready to receive it. And until then, to not settle, to not compromise, to not abandon yourself just to feel something. Because the love that's truly yours, the peace, the purpose, the abundance, it's not found in what you chase. It's found in what you allow, in what you believe you're worthy of, in what you choose to no longer tolerate. So breathe, be still, and know that the universe is not punishing you with this pause. It's preparing you for something sacred, something real, something that begins not when you find it, but when you finally believe you deserve it. There are conversations that never find their way into the open air, words that stay caught in the back of your throat, feelings you never dared to name, memories that live in silence, not because they lack importance, but because something in you chose to hold them close instead of release them. And yet, even without a voice, they echo, endlessly, powerfully, almost unbearably. These conversations never end because they never really began, looping through your thoughts like unfinished melodies. This isn't always about closure. Sometimes, it's about the invisible weight of energy that never got to move all the way through you. It's about emotion that built up but never found expression, like a storm cloud that never rained but still left the sky heavy. And when that weight sits inside you long enough, you start confusing the silence for emptiness and the stillness for loss. But what you're really feeling is the residue of unspoken truths and unmet endings, not necessarily because they were meant to end a certain way, but because they never had the chance to be complete at all. And now, as Venus settles into Taurus, a soft but undeniable shift begins. It's not the kind of change that bursts into your life with fireworks or dramatic revelations. No, this one is quieter, more internal, more personal. It doesn't shake your world so much as it settles your soul. It's not asking you to fix relationships or revisit old lovers or explain yourself to anyone. It's not even about them at all. It's about the silence they left behind, the quiet their absence created, and how that quiet over time has become its own kind of presence. You sit in it now, perhaps more than ever. That silence, once a void, once a space of wondering, has matured. It has texture now. It has shape. You've spent enough time with it that it almost feels like a companion. And yet, some part of you still wonders what went wrong. You retrace your steps. You revisit old words. You imagine different endings. If only I had said more. If only they had stayed. If only I understood what it all meant. But maybe there was never anything missing. Maybe you were never meant to understand it all. Maybe you've been searching for resolution in a story that was never yours to rewrite. There's something tender and undeniably painful about realizing that some endings aren't mistakes. They're just truths we weren't ready to see at the time. And maybe the peace you seek doesn't lie in figuring it all out. Maybe it's not clarity that heals, but the radical act of releasing your need to know. Not all answers are healing. Some are just clever disguises for your unwillingness to let go. They trick you into thinking you're still in control, when in fact you're still in grief, still holding, still hoping. But maybe what's exhausting you isn't the absence of answers. It's the endless loop of needing them. It's the illusion that if you could just figure it all out, you'd finally be free. But real freedom begins when you stop needing to understand, when you stop trying to fit every heartbreak into a lesson, every departure into a reason. Venus in Taurus doesn't rush you through this. She holds your hand, not to pull you forward, but to steady you as you begin to stand still, rooted in what's true, not just what's comfortable. You might find yourself drifting back lately, rereading messages you promised you'd delete, visiting memories that still feel too alive, looking for closure in people who never gave you peace. But every time you reach out, even if just in your mind, you're met with more silence. That silence, though, isn't empty. It's your answer. It's the quiet truth that there's nothing more to say. And that's hard. Because we've been taught to believe that closure is a conversation, that healing comes from being heard. But more often than not, closure is a decision, not a dialogue, a boundary, not a breakthrough. Some goodbyes don't come with warning. Some unravel in moments that feel almost insignificant. No dramatic send-off, no final words. Just a slow dissolving of connection, a gentle slipping away. And when that happens, you're left to finish the story yourself. That's the hardest part. Writing the ending with no co-author. Finding peace in a silence that never gave you permission to move on. But silence is not a void. It's a doorway. It's not a lack of love. It's an invitation to start again, to return to yourself. The space they left isn't asking to be filled with another person or another distraction. It's asking to be honored, to be sat with, to be learned from. That ache in your chest, it's not just longing, it's transformation. It's your soul reconfiguring itself without the weight of what no longer fits. Real emptiness isn't when someone leaves. It's when you keep carrying their absence like it still belongs to you. It's when the echo of their goodbye becomes louder than your own voice. But the moment you stop trying to fill that space, it changes. It softens. It becomes sacred. Not a wound, but a womb, a space for something new to grow, something that doesn't remind you of what was, but leads you toward what could be. Still, the temptation remains to rush into the next thing, to grasp for certainty, to return to the familiar. Because uncertainty is brutal, and loneliness can feel unbearable. And so you go back to what's safe. You replay the same dynamics. You answer messages you should ignore. You stay in rooms that drain you just because they feel like home. But Venus in Taurus sees this space not as punishment, but as sanctuary. This silence, this stillness, it's not emptiness. It's a sacred pause, a chance to come back to yourself before you decide what or who deserves to enter next. And that's the lesson now. Not everything that once mattered needs to matter forever. Some connections weren't meant to endure. They were meant to reveal, to act as bridges, to carry you from one season of yourself to another. You don't need to hold on to them to honor their impact. You can let them go with love, with reverence even, and still move forward freely. Because the truth is, not everyone you love is meant to stay. Some people enter your life only to help you unlock something inside yourself. And once that key turns, their purpose is complete. They were never the destination, only the path. You mistook them for home, but really they were the map. And now that you've arrived somewhere new, it's time to stop looking back. Venus in Taurus doesn't just nudge your heart, she awakens your body. You begin to feel, on a physical level, who nourishes you and who depletes you. The tightness in your chest after a draining interaction. The calm that washes over you in the presence of someone grounding. Your body becomes your compass, your first language. You begin to trust your instincts again. Your nervous system speaks louder than your thoughts. This isn't just intuition, it's remembrance. Your body knows, your heart knows, your energy knows. And as you begin to trust those inner signals, everything changes. You stop forcing what feels wrong. You stop justifying what doesn't align. You stop begging for connection from people who cannot meet you where you are. This transformation isn't theoretical. It's cellular. Every time you hardened your heart to protect yourself, you dimmed your light. Every time you stayed in places that shrank you, you silenced your soul. But now, Venus asks, what are you willing to open up to again? Not recklessly, not desperately, but honestly and with care. And here's the hard truth. You can't keep settling. Not for almost. Not for good enough. Not for energy that's half-hearted. Taurus teaches patience, but not passivity. She reminds you that you deserve more than breadcrumbs, that you are allowed to want full meals, full-hearted love, full-bodied truth, and that waiting isn't weakness, it's wisdom. You may be surrounded by relationships that linger in limbo, friendships that feel like echoes, conversations that loop without ever arriving anywhere. It's tempting to stay in those halfway spaces. They feel familiar. They feel like something. But they're not nourishment. They're placeholders. And the longer you hold on to them, the longer you delay what's meant for you. So this is the challenge. To sit in the in-between. To hold the space without rushing to fill it. To let the silence teach you. To trust that what is real won't pass you by, and what isn't was never yours to keep. Not every story is meant to be finished. Not every message needs a reply. Sometimes, the most powerful choice is the one to let go. Without bitterness, without blame, without needing to be understood. Because your energy is sacred. Your time is sacred. Your presence is not something to be scattered across unfinished conversations and unresolved dynamics. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It's survival. It's alignment. And when you begin to pour your energy back into yourself, something magical happens. Your creativity returns. Your clarity sharpens. Your heart begins to beat in rhythm with your own truth. You're no longer defined by who left or who stayed. You're defined by how deeply you choose to honor yourself. Even now, your mind might whisper, "What if they come back?" Or "What if I said more?" But your heart, your wise, intuitive, unshakable heart, already knows. Those doors are closed for a reason. And if you were to open them again, you'd only walk back into an old pain that no longer belongs to you. You've outgrown it. You've outgrown them. So sit with the silence. Honor the space. Let it soften you, not shatter you. Let it remind you of what you're made of. You are not the conversations that never happened. You are not the stories that ended too soon. You are the one who lived through it, who stayed, who rose, and who is finally, beautifully, ready for what comes next. Right now, every connection you have in your life is speaking the same language. It's as if love, friendship, your relationship with money, your sense of safety, and even how you relate to your own inner world, all of these are tuned to the same frequency. This frequency isn't accidental. It's the vibrational soundtrack of your soul's current state. So when something feels off or missing in one area, it ripples across the others. You might notice subtle shifts, uneasy feelings, or inexplicable discomfort because the universe is hearing the total sound of your energy, and it's responding to that whole symphony, not just isolated notes. The universe isn't interested in fragments of you scattered here and there, trying to patch up holes or hide pain. It wants you in your fullest expression, whole, complete, grounded. This is a profound invitation to be honest with yourself, with your heart, and with your inner knowing. So ask yourself with everything you are, does this relationship, this connection, or this dynamic truly make you feel expansive, seen, and alive? Or does it shrink your spirit, drain your energy, or leave you feeling less than who you are? Your answer matters deeply. It carries weight beyond what you might think, because it's the seed from which everything new will grow. Venus, the goddess of love and harmony, isn't calling you toward fairy tale romance or fleeting pleasure anymore. Her call is deeper now. She asks for something real, grounded reality, quiet peace, and rooted truth. There's no more room for illusions, pretenses, or holding on to what no longer nourishes your soul. Sometimes that truth means walking away. Sometimes it means turning your back on something familiar so you can face the vastness of your own freedom. Not every goodbye needs to be spoken aloud. Some farewells happen in silence, and those silent endings can be the most transformative, even if you didn't realize you needed them. When the silence falls around you, it doesn't just mark an end, it marks a beginning. You emerge on the other side, not as the person who demanded explanations or answers, but as the one who found peace without them. You learn that peace isn't dependent on understanding every detail. It lives quietly inside you, waiting for you to stop chasing the why and start trusting what's been there all along. Truth is not always found in words or conversations. Sometimes it reveals itself in stillness, in the deep listening of your own heart. It surfaces when you stop running from your feelings and finally allow yourself to be still, without distraction, without judgment. In those moments, you can sense the subtle shifts within. You feel the gentle unfolding of your soul's wisdom as it guides you forward. There's no need for elaborate rituals or searching for the perfect words to explain what you feel. The universe already knows exactly where you are. Every person who left your life, every silence you sat through, every restless night, they weren't random. They were soft, persistent nudges guiding you toward alignment. Those experiences, painful as they might have been, were part of a greater unfolding. They helped you shed old layers and step closer to your true self. Letting go of what no longer belongs to you is not a sign of weakness. It's the ultimate act of courage and growth. When you release what no longer serves your highest good, you create space for transformation. You move into a new frequency, one where you don't seek closure from others, but instead embody freedom from within. Your roots grow deeper into your own truth, and the world around you begins to reflect that shift in energy. This moment is not just a temporary phase or passing feeling. It's a profound rebirth. At this elevated level of energy, the only thing required of you is surrender. Surrender to the flow of life, surrender to your own process, and surrender to the wisdom of your soul. Surrender opens the door to new possibilities, new connections, and new ways of being that align with your deepest essence. If these words resonate with something stirring inside you, trust that this message has found you for a reason. If you've read this far, it means the transformation is already underway. The parts of yourself you once clung to, the old stories, the attachments, the fears, they have already begun to dissolve. You don't have to hold on to the old version of who you thought you needed to be. The silence, that sacred quiet, is calling you gently toward the new you. This new version of yourself is waiting, more whole, more grounded, more at peace than ever before. All that's left now is to answer the call, step into your power, and embrace the freedom that comes from being truly, unapologetically you.